Welcome to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast, America's #1 podcast for new real estate investors, where we know that finding discounted properties is the most proven path to financial freedom. I am your host, Brent Daniels, Mr. TTP, Mr. Talk to People, and I am telling you, if I can do it, so can you. So let's crack open this podcast with a unbelievable text that I got that I received from a wholesaler wholesaler and real estate investor out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It says, "This year I have already made my W-2 yearly salary in assignment fees, and I made last year's assignment total already in the past 6 months. Now looking to quit my W-2 in October." When I get a text like this, when I get a message like this, I have to tell you, the lights just start shining in my eyes. I start feeling that fire in my belly. I just feel so incredibly happy because to break out of that conventional box, to break out of that W-2 life, to break out of that, stay in this row in school, and then stay in this row in your job and just do what you're supposed to do and just be average and just be normal. And for all of the people listening and watching this, we're different. We have a different brain. We have a different fire in our bellies that just says, you know what? I don't want to just stay in this box. I don't want to just stay in this row. I want to do something special, and I want to do something spectacular, and I want to be able to have more control over my schedule and over my efforts and over my life. And that's why it is my absolute pleasure to bring to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast, to the Rhino Tribe, this incredible conversation with Mark Schinzel. Mark, how are you, brother?
What's going on, guys? It's Brent. I am pumped to be here. This has been a dream since I joined the tribe in 2018. So I'm super excited.
I'm super excited for you. Starting out in 2018, it took a while to really start building up the momentum and start closing deals, right? Why don't you bring everybody back to that starting point at 2018 and what that looked like over that year and a half that it took you to finally start getting the momentum in your business?
Yeah. So common denominator, right? People hate their job. They want a way out. You read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I'm working like 70 hours a week, supply chain. So warehousing, third shift, second shift, and I'm sneaking in AirPods to like listen to podcasts. I actually found Bigger Pockets and a buddy of mine, and I screenshot it and sent it to a friend on Snapchat. And he was like, "Have you ever heard of wholesaling?" I'm like, "What the?" Like, no, but I'm interested in anything at this point. And he sent me Wholesaling Inc. and a couple other ones like Sean Terry and just a couple other ones that are out there, especially during that time.
Sure.
So sent it to me, and I listened, and I couldn't stop listening, and I got overly obsessed to where, if you ask my friends, fiancés, roommates, family, it doesn't matter who, I was annoying. And I knew that, but I was just so into it. So of course I'm listening and trying to take action and driving around, and I don't even know if Driving for Dollars, I think, was just coming out, but I was kind of broke. Like, I did not have a lot of money. I didn't know how to spend and just have a budget. So I was writing them down, going back, looking back in tax records. Old school way, finding them out and then handwriting letters every single night, like 100. And I had it down to like, okay, every letter was 80 seconds to write. To stuff it was 40 seconds. Like, I knew my time, like trying to keep KPIs. And then I heard you joined the team basically right around that time or a little bit later, but that's when you're really getting on the podcast. And like, okay, so you're telling me it's cheaper just to pick up the phone.
Yep.
I'm in sales already. I have a sales background for years. I'm younger, but always been into sales, huge entrepreneur guy. Like I've always been into it. So I'm like, hell yeah, this is no brainer to me. So I actually swiped a credit card in 2018 and just went for it. And what's worse was, so I joined and I'm still working 70 hours a week, and I get off shift at like 7:00 in the morning. Come back, it's almost 8 o'clock after traffic. And I can only cold call like I mean, I felt weird cold calling 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and I'm tired. Like I came up with excuses to be inconsistent.
Sure.
And so I found another W-2 that moved me to Nashville. And I work very close to a strict 40 hours a week. There are some times where it's much more, but it gave me the work life. And again, struggled with money because Nashville is a little more expensive than where I was. So I worked another part-time during 2019. Fiance moved out there with me. And from there, I kind of leaned on her financially a little bit in the beginning and just started picking up the phone to get consistent leads to come in. And, you know, from there saw traction and got my first deal in 2019.
I love it. And, you know, it's really important, you know, to I want to kind of dissect and break this down is when did you find the time to be consistent? Because you're working so much and you and I had talked a lot, you know, you were squeezing it in during lunch breaks. You're squeezing it in after hours. You're squeezing it in during vacation time and weekends. Like, how did you set that up and how do you stay focused on the goal? Because I mean, just honestly, I mean, the times that you know you can take a breath and take a moment to kind of just sit back and relax. You had your foot on the pedal and you were really moving towards your goal of doing this full time. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, so it's hard to say that. So setting up a schedule, of course, time blocking, and you hear it from everybody, right? That's crucial. So every day after work, like I would go back and see my fiance, girlfriend at the time, now fiance, but I would tell her like, I need to cold call and follow up between the hours of 4:30 and 7:30 p.m. every single day. And at one point, if I started to slack, she was holding me accountable. So that was huge. Another part of that is just you got to find out who's really in your corner. I can assure you, and everyone that's watching this, right, is in the same situation. And I can bet 90% of them have had family and close friends say like, you're nuts. And that definitely happened to me. What was crazy, I had some deals in 2019 that I thought were deals. And they were land, of course, and I'm still inexperienced, haven't done one. I'm looking at this and like, this is going to be a $14,000 deal. And I'm at my W-2 taking calls, like just leaving the rows, literally leaving the rows. You know, a call center scenario, and I'm leaving and I'm going and I'm like, I think this just fell apart, survey, blah, 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 like all these things. And my really good friend, still a friend today, was like, so when do you give up? You know, when do you call it quits? And I've been doing this now. You know, I signed up in 2018. This is a year later and I'm still trying it. And I'm like, dude, I'm not giving up. You know, you just kind of laugh and brush it off and then go get with people that are doing it and doing better than you. So I joined real estate investment groups in Nashville and saw people doing it, met some guys from TTP that were already six-figure wholesalers and full-time. But setting that schedule and time blocking is so important. And then surrounding yourself with people that want to see you doing it, want to see you win. It is so crucial. And trust me, those friends I talk about today see me getting ready to move forward, to move out of W-2. And they're like, yeah, I didn't believe in you. I'm like, I know. And that's what fueled me, you know? So
it's incredible.
exciting.
You know, it's really, you know, we live in this world and it's very familiar that we talk about wholesaling real estate. We talk about kind of the language that comes with real estate investing. But for most people, it's very foreign. You know, it's very strange to them. They're not really sure. A lot of people think you need to have a tremendous amount of money to be able to invest in properties, and then you need to be able to upgrade them and update them. And everybody thinks real estate investors, for the most part, are like fix and flippers, and they don't understand that the way that people get these opportunities, get the best deals, is through wholesalers like us. We're out there hustling.
Right.
We're out there initiating the conversation. We're out there having quality conversations with the distressed property owners out there. But most people just don't know what we're doing. So it gets very frustrating, and it makes us feel like we're on an island when we're out there trying to pursue this dream. We see it. We see the results that other people are having. We see that it's the foundation of being able to control our real estate business. It all comes from being able to source the deals ourselves. We know that, we feel that, we understand that, and it is absolutely critical, just like Mark is saying here, that we surround ourselves with people that not only are doing it, but are doing more than us.
100%.
It's going to push us up. It's going to motivate us. It's going to give us like a path to follow. We're just mirroring and matching what other people are doing, and we're seeing their success. This is not overly complicated. If we keep it simple, we can succeed. Anybody can succeed in this business if you focus on solving the problems of the 6 to 10% of the market, real estate market, that is in distress at all times. So with that being said, Mark, tactically, how did you were you cold calling during these times? Were you DMing during these times? Were you reaching out? Because you've built a very significant cash buyer database over the last 2.5 years, which really accounts for 50% of your income. Why don't you break down that a little bit?
Yeah, specifically 2020, this past year was a blow up for me for JVs. I mean, we did really well, but
explain a JV. What is that?
Yeah,
mean?
A joint venture. So basically, at least for how I've done it, because I've always had a lengthy cash buyers list. Other wholesalers would bring me a deal, the contract already signed, and then from there, I'm blasting it out to all my cash buyers. But I try to do more than just your average. And I don't say this, but I've worked with other people where I've tried the JV. Like I will do not only the disposition, right, but I'll negotiate with the buyers. I will walk them through the property. The seller, nor does the actual wholesaler need to be there for me personally. And then in particular in Pittsburgh, there's an occupancy permit, a dye test. I just got back from one like an hour ago. There are so many small stipulations needed to get a deal through like the finish line that I will take care of versus having, another wholesaler who's maybe out of state or even crazier out of country.
Right.
Have to worry about that stuff. So to go back to what your question was, so yes, definitely cold calling. Cold calling was big, and I really want to shout out my team too. Like I have the best cold calling team out there in my personal opinion. There's two of them, Philippines, and then I have my part-time acquisition manager now in the Philippines as well. They are killers. Like they are great. My one Philippine caller, Louis, been with me for over a year, which is kind of unheard of, I feel like, in the industry. And I can touch on that later on like our hiring or whatever. But, so we're cold calling, we're getting some deals, but when we're clearing 60,000 last year, and that's nothing crazy. Like I've seen obviously way bigger numbers. People make 6 figures in a month, but
sure.
Half of that was from people literally sending us deals. And what I would do is if I'm on my lunch break, right, or just like doing basically nothing at home or watching TV with my fiance, I was scrolling through Facebook and would see new wholesalers that I've never seen in these groups post a deal. Like they might not get a like, or I know it's a bad time that they posted it, or because obviously there's better times to post things. I mean, you'll just see it from a picture you put up, but I would slide in the DMs and I just copy and paste every single message that I had. I would change up the intro. Hi, John. Hi, Brent. Hi, whoever. And then say, listen, I am happy to dispo. I have 1,700, 2,000, however many buyers in the location, and give them all of my contact information. And I actually have I would say somewhat of like a program for JVing. First one's 50-50, second 60-40, third is 65-35, and then 70-30 going forward. So I want them to come back and make me permanent disposition. And so I tag them with that and say, listen, like I'm not going to drop big dispo names, but I'm not going to be that company or that guy or that gal. Like I'm going to give back to you if you keep feeding me deals.
Love it.
So it worked. I mean, people were sending them to me and I'd repeat JVs, multiple, and it worked out.
So just so that I understand here. So you go to like Pittsburgh real estate investing groups in Facebook, right? And
Yep.
You see people and you're in there every day. So you're kind of getting a flow of who are the usual characters, who's in there posting a lot. And then you see somebody that's new and you're like, oh, okay. And they're posting and they don't know. They just got a deal. They're excited. They posted like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night or something,
Yep,
right?
exactly.
And the funny thing is, and this is true around the country, but real estate investors, like they'll get it hot and heavy in the morning, but by like 2:30, 3:00, they're just done like reviewing deals and looking at it for the most part, the bigger guys. It's the truth, right, Mark? Right?
So true.
So,
it's crazy.
So you're on there, you're reaching out to them, you're saying, hey, listen, if you need help selling this deal, I'm your guy, I can help you out. I've got this big buyer database. First of all, how did you build 1,700 to 2,000 buyers so that you have this power to be able, and this confidence to be able to reach out to somebody and start that relationship? And really, you're leading with a tremendous amount of value. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
How did you build that buyer base?
So it really started, I mean, the first initial one with some of the real estate investment groups will actually have buyers list already there. And they're usually pretty small. It's like, and I say small, 500.
Right.
That's great. A nice little base. So that starts it. And then from there, I mean, I was pulling lists on PropStream. I was pulling lists on, I mean, now at this point, right, Batch Leads, there's so many different providers, but I'm texting in each of these places and basically saying, would you guys ever consider picking up other cash deals? So we did that. I mean, and it wasn't just me, right? I have other guys that are doing it with me and for me, but
like
we did a lot of that.
Assistance, Mark?
Yeah,
Okay.
Exactly. I scraped a lot of these different groups for emails, a lot. And then just going to the real estate investment groups in person, business cards, and then I would say I probably got 10% from each of my lists just from emails getting forwarded to other buyers.
Yeah.
That happens so often. And I mean, once I do go full time, I have a couple ways I plan on expanding that a bit, but that covered majority of it. And then once I got to like 800 or 1,000, where it was beefy enough to kind of push to another wholesaler, trade up. That's huge. I trade up with 2 people in Nashville that put me over 2,000. That was just critical. I mean,
Yep.
I went from 900 to 2,000 in 2 weeks.
Yep.
With no repeats. Like it was pretty great.
Yeah. So what Mark's talking about there is a strategy, and we break this down. If you want to have like a total overview of this, there is an outline called the Cash Buyer Pack in ttpinsider.com. It's called Cash Buyer Pack, and that'll help you build up your first 100 cash buyers, and then you can start trading up. And what you do is you just network in your market with other people that are kind of at the same level you are at this point with their cash buyer database, and you say, hey, listen, I've got this database. I'll give it to you. If you give me yours, we'll just trade with each other, and that way we can start getting a more robust cash buyer database. And with the really, really smart, savvy, collaborative people in your market, they will do this. Do not shy away from this. Have confidence that people want the list that you have, and you want the list that they have, and it is mutually beneficial for sure. So that's how Mark became like was able to become a magnet for all these new real estate wholesalers that are out there finding deals, but they don't have that disposition part of their business figured out yet. So that is huge. And I'm telling you, guys, there are people, the biggest wholesalers in the country, this is all they do is JV deals, because they have 70, 80,000 buyers in the market. And you can literally, as you're building your wholesaling business and you're out there hunting every day, you can turn it into gathering every day, because you have so many people sending you opportunities that you can JV on. Now, Mark, let me ask you this. When you said 50-50, 60-40, 65-30, 70-30, I assume that they get a bigger piece of the pie each deal.
Exactly. Right? Yeah, because the lead cost me $0, right? I mean, it will be gas money, and there will be some time, and I don't have a dispositions person yet. I will be looking to do that when I get full time, but I look at it as, I mean, it's all love, right? That's the collaboration over competition is truly, it's amazing, and it's very real in this industry, at least from what I personally see. So I want to give back. Like, I don't want to you did a lot of that chasing. I mean, it takes time on that wholesaler side. So I give back in any way I can. And to me, at 30%, I'm happy. So.
Well, I like the way that you have that tiered because the relationship builds over time. You know what I mean? If they're bringing it to you and you guys are, if you're splitting a deal 50-50 with somebody, you're communicating with them every day. You're keeping them positive. You're helping them with the seller sometimes. You're really pulling these deals across the finish line, which is absolutely critical, especially as people are starting out, because the biggest fear is something's going to happen. The deal's not going to go through, and all this effort that you put into it just falls apart and evaporates, right?
Yep.
And so if you have somebody there that's with you and they're almost like a mentor and they're keeping you, moving forward towards closing that deal, it is a huge benefit. And then you start getting more confidence as a new wholesaler, and more confidence. And as you get that, and as you understand the process more, you get paid more on these JV deals with Mark. So I love that. Are you doing that both in Nashville and Pittsburgh?
Yeah. So Nashville, now we've kind of got out of that market, and I've heard big gurus kind of move out too. It's funny. It's tough when you're hunting for a house that's right next to a new build. And so they think their house is worth 500K when no, the new build that just sold was 500K, not what your house is. So I found it difficult, but I am primarily just doing JVs there now because there's money in the buyer database. But Pittsburgh, I do it too. It's just I am much more focused on my own deals here and generating more revenue that way versus JVs at the moment.
And it's an interesting point that you talked about posting times as people are posting to these real estate investing groups. Listen, if you're new and you're thinking about this, it's really interesting. There's a couple different strategies that Mark's laying out here for you. If you post in the morning, you're going to get more action. You're going to get more people on that. But if you post in the later times, you might find somebody phenomenal like Mark that is going to really hold your hand during these first few deals and make sure that you have that extra confidence to go through and get it done. So it just depends on what you're looking for when you're starting out. If you just want to try to get that deal sold as quick as possible, great. But maybe you're not going to get the communication. Maybe you're not going to get the guidance and the coaching that you would if you post it later. Really interesting, Mark. Really interesting. I like that. So let's break down a deal. Actually, we're going to break 2 deals on here because one is not enough while we have Mark on the podcast. So first, let's go with a true wholesale deal, a true assignment, a true, you found a deal, you locked it up, you sold that contract. Let's go with that first.
Yeah. So I actually had a caller that quit on me. So before they quit, like I told them it's going to take some time for you to close a deal, right? And I was going to pay them a hefty amount. It was a U.S. caller, a friend. And so they left. And at this time, they got me this lead, and I was getting so many leads and trying to follow up. And it's hard because the thing is, if you're not, and they were in a learning curve, right? But if you're not qualifying them well, you get trash leads that cover up all the gold. And that's just the truth. So I got lucky that I was finding this one like through the database and just kind of scraping myself again. Like, okay, I'm looking at it now. We had 2 pillars originally, the condition and motivation, which the motivation wasn't correct. There was a bigger one. But so they send me this, that person leaves the company. And then I guess a couple weeks later, I follow up and find out it's an absentee owner list. So I struggled because when I moved from Nashville to Pittsburgh, Nashville, you can market like an hour and a half almost outside of center city, Nashville. Pittsburgh, it's not like that. It's different. So I probably had a dry couple months where I sent marketing dollars out there on the outskirts. Well, this is one of the ones that actually came in that was huge for me. So it's about an hour outside of Pittsburgh, downtown, and it's a quadplex. And so we'll go through the pillars, right? Condition, it's actually in decent condition. It was turnkey. Nothing wrong with it whatsoever. Now, the motivation, and this is the biggest part. So she tried to list it a few years back and actually couldn't sell it. And she's out of state with her mom managing it, and her mom has a W-2. So she was spread so thin. It honestly blew my mind that she was property manager at the time. Timeline, literally anytime, as soon as possible. And then price. So she originally went for $80,000. And to me, I'm running for cap rate. And for those that don't know cap rate, right, it's usually for multifamily, duplex, triplex, quads, and up. So basically how it works is you get net income, so minus your expenses, the gross rent, minus all the expenses, including insurance, taxes, maintenance, any utilities, divide that by the purchase price. So when I'm doing that, and I don't have the exact numbers down here anymore, when I'm doing it, it's showing me at an 80% or 80,000, like 15% cap rate, which many markets, that's great. Like that's awesome. Pittsburgh's really picky. You get high cap rates here. I mean, I have one in Dispo that I just locked up that's showing 45% and I'm not getting hits. Right. I'm buying it myself now. That doesn't matter. But so this one, I'm seeing this. I'm like, my mind is blown. Right. So I go there and I take pictures and it needs a little bit of work. And reality is it doesn't. It's just like, you can see it's going to have deferred maintenance. So I go back and I told her, I'm like, hey, there's some things I'm a little concerned about. How this next process works is you and I need to agree upon a price. And then I'm going to bring out my investors to come out there and basically say if it's yay or nay, if it's a deal or not. And that's how I pose all cash buyers is they're my investors. And now some of them are. But so what I did was I was like, let me come back with a number because I'm not sure if 80,000 is going to work. So backstory, right? My training is huge on your methods, which I know my callers are going to be so excited that I'm on here because we use your YouTube videos constantly for training. And then also Chris Voss, which FBI hostage negotiator, been talked about many times on here, Never Split the Difference, the book. Audible is preferred, and it's honestly amazing. Everyone should listen to it, read it. So basically how I did it was I started with addressing the negative to her. I was like, Alexis, you're going to hate me. You're going to think that I'm so cheap or that I don't know the market. You're going to think I lowball everybody. And then there's a strategy on presenting price. And I said, but I'm thinking I can offer 55,000. And you do it with like a smile and a higher pitch. And she was like, okay, yeah, that was a little bit lower than I expected, but let me sleep on it. Followed up the next day, she wanted 60,000 for it. I'm like, awesome. I feel like I'm in. So that brings the cap rate up to, if I'm dispoing it out at 80, we're still at that 17, 20 range or something like that. Like we're looking good. And so I worked out numbers and it was a better cap rate than I expected because I was a little new with cap rate. And I ended up sending this to a big time wholesaler and actually a low-key mentor of mine now in Pittsburgh, huge, $300,000, $400,000 months. I mean, he's awesome at what he does. I sent it to his team and his team's like, well, that's an hour away. I know the cap rate's great, but that's not an appreciating area. I'm just not sure if we can do it. She runs it by the guy I know runs the company. And she's like, we're going to take a chance on it, but we won't be able to dispo it out for another 2 weeks because they're that busy. They have back to back. And I'm like, well, that defeats the purpose of wholesaling to me. And it's no offense to them. I'm just like, I need to get her a cash deal. It needs to be quick. I don't want to take a chance. I can take a chance. My name is not as big as what theirs is here. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to shoot it out. So I shoot it out at 80,000 and do a buyer walkthrough. And I end up getting 92,000 and some change for it. So a total assignment. And I asked the buyer first, I'm like, do you care what I make? And they were like, I don't care at all. I said, good, then we can move forward. And I ended up making 32,000 and change.
So you locked it up for 60,000. You put it out at 80,000 and you got to bid up to 92,000, netting you basically half of what you make in a year at your W-2 from this deal, right?
Yep, exactly. Love it. I've been waiting for that for years, man.
Yes. Yes,
Awesome.
I love it. I mean, there is so much there. Just for anybody that's new and maybe just listening to this for the first time, if you want to watch this, definitely check it out on Brent Daniels' YouTube channel so that you can put a face with a voice. But we talked about the pillars. Mark did a wonderful job of breaking down the 4 pillars. The 4 pillars that you want to know when you're pre-qualifying every seller is the condition of the property, their timeline to sell, their motivation to sell, and their price. And he was able to pull all of that out. And when you're able to do that, you know you've got somebody that has true motivation. Remember, when it comes to wholesaling real estate, you need two main factors. You need equity in the property, and you need motivation. All right. That's how you get these bigger deals. All right. And so incredible. Not only that, but you took it to the biggest wholesaler in your market. And they're like, nah, you know what? We'll kind of put you here, take this ticket. In 2 weeks, we'll get around to working with you. And you're like, no, I'll just blast it out. You did it yourself, which I often find is the absolute best way to get the most amount, is when you're sending it out to your own cash buyer database. Not only did they like the deal, not only did they respond quickly to the deal, but they bid it up an additional $12,000. It went from a $20,000 to $32,000. And that was just from negotiating. And I think you did a fantastic job with the way that you approached it, the negotiating with the property owner and getting them down to what their bottom line is. Because a lot of people have maybe a number in mind, or maybe people are whispering in their ear, you need to get more for this property, or I think it's worth this or whatever else. But until a ready, willing, and able buyer shows up, then that is the value. It doesn't matter what the seller thinks the value is. It doesn't matter what the market thinks the value is. Doesn't matter what appraisers or real estate agents think of the value of a property is. The buyer determines the value. And that's what you were able to communicate to her and get that property locked up at 60,000. Phenomenal.
The best part too is, it's so funny. Like, of course, the money's awesome, right? But helping out a seller that's actually in need, it's like mind blowing. It's to where I reached out and said, would you ever do a video testimonial? And I've been trying for this for all my other deals. She was the one to do it. Yep. And it's my largest deal. Like, she gave me a video testimonial. It's on my website now. It's like, to get that clearly, you provide value. And that's the biggest part. People look at wholesalers as like something like a shark. And the reality is like, as long as I know how I can help you in your end goal, that's it. And understanding her mom wanted out of the management was critical. And I told her mom, I'm like, I hope I'm your buyer, but I might not be. So hopefully we can make this work. I'm whispering that, but the reality is I wanted to help, and you got to really lean it on that too. So negotiation's great, and it's needed there, but helping them is really, really huge.
The only people that I find that think that wholesalers are sharks are people that are jealous of the amount of money that wholesalers make. It's the truth. They just don't understand the amount of value. Our income equals the amount of value we provide to the community. You can't just dupe people. You can't just like have people go through a process where it goes through a title company and closing attorney and all. It takes two weeks to a month to close these deals. It all goes through title. There's no way to just fake this. This is real. People need to stay committed. People are committed to this sale. The only people that think that we're sharks are people that are just jealous about the amount of value we provide, because they just don't know necessarily how to provide that value. So that's what we do, and that's why we exist. If other people did, then there wouldn't be wholesaling. If fix and flippers knew how to go source their own deals or wanted to source their own deals, we wouldn't exist. If people building their rental portfolios wanted to get the best deals, they'd go out and get and speak with the property owners themselves. They would get those deals. They don't want to do that. They just want the properties, and that's why wholesaling is so powerful. So beyond that, let's go real quick through this creative deal, because I think it's awesome that you were able to get a deal with a creative finance opportunity with 0% down and 0% interest rate over 10 years. This is phenomenal. Break it down for us.
Yeah, so I'll go over really quick. We got the lead in, and after repair value, ARV was $120,000. Actually in a really decent area. It's right by a college in Pittsburgh, up and coming. They're building a hospital next to it. So it's a really good spot. And I'm like, okay, this is great. Like, kind of hard to find properties in this area right now. And lady wanted $60,000, which, hey, we're in that 50% ballpark. That's already, I'm interested, So I go out with my partner, actually, who's my stepdad on my holding company. And we go out, and I'm like, okay, give me your analysis on what really needs done here. because I was just starting with him. We just started the holding company. And I'm like, what do you think really? He's like, well, if it's not me doing any of this and it'd be all hired out for a flip, 50,000. I'm like, okay. So 110, it's worth 120, closing costs. We're not even breaking even. We're losing money. So I go back and I call her and I'm like, B, you're going to hate me, and I start doing the whole Chris Boss and I address the negative, and it's huge. I was like, but I'm coming in. I was like, I don't even want to place an offer, I think is what I said. And she's like, well, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I'm like, thinking $20,000. And she was like, what the, and hung up on me. It's crazy. So instantly I call her back and she didn't answer. I was like, hey, B, I was like, this is Mark. I think we may have got disconnected. I was like, but I apologize if I offended you on my cash offer. However, if you'd ever consider being the bank on the property, I can maybe give you more. So she called me the next day and actually apologized and said, I'm sorry for flipping out. I've had a rough couple weeks. People are in the hospital, et cetera. Again, helping out a seller, right? They're in a crappy situation. You want to help. So she's like, explain this to me because I don't want to foreclose on you. There's processes, and I'm not going to get into that, but I give her the insurances and she says, okay, I would like to do this. Can you work with my power of attorney? And I said, that's fine. What is the purchase price? Like, what are you looking for? And I think at the time, she's like, I mean, like 27,000 would work. And I'm like, whoa, are you looking for a cash deal or something creative? And she's like, well, cash is preferred. And honestly, I needed it at $20,000.
Yeah.
That was the only way to make this work. And I was like, well, what if I give you 35,000 instead? I'm going to give you more. And we work it out to be 10 years. And she said, well, did you see that Jeep that was in the house? And I'm, yeah. She's like, well, would you want to buy that? And I'm like, what if we just throw it on the terms and, call it a day and we just spread that over 10, I'll give you 40,000 over 10 years. And she's like, done. Get with my power of attorney, my brother. So we wrote it up. We start renovation, I think in the next week or two.
So real quick, Mark. So
yeah,
you wrote it up as for 10 years, you're going to pay her how much a month?
It comes out to be like I think it's actually 7 years. It's $350 a month with a balloon payment at the end for like, I think it's a little less than $10,000. So
$350 a month for 7 years, balloon payment of $10,000. I love this because there's so many different ways to structure this,
yeah.
and you get a Jeep with it, right? So
yeah.
You got $350 a month. How much work does this property need?
So being that my stepdad's general contractor and we can actually go in and do it ourselves, we're getting around a total of a little less than I think 10,000 to make rental condition, right? Well, the Jeep, 27,000 miles, a 97 Wrangler. If you look those up, you don't find a 97 Jeep Wrangler with 27,000 miles, garage kept. I mean, it needs inspected, all this kind of stuff, but we should be able to pull almost all of that out for the renovation to where we zero down, zero interest, and zero money out of pocket to cash flow net around $450 a month when it's all said and done. So insane deal. I mean, that was like the home run of the year for us. And my first creative deal that I took down myself, that is just mind blowing.
Awesome.
Since then, I mean, once you start, posting this stuff and being loud, right? You mention all the time.
Yeah.
You get loud. We have now private money lenders. We get referrals from family and friends. It's amazing to see what even specifically that deal did for, our business and the confidence it brought to myself and my team to be able to pitch it a little bit more.
I love it. Mark, if people are in Pittsburgh, how do they get a hold of you? How do they reach out? Maybe they want to joint venture with you. Maybe they just want to be in your world and squat up and communicate and just, share results and what's working, best practices. How do people get a hold of you?
I'll give you two real quick. So I'll give you my Instagram handle, Mark, MARK _ my last name, S as in Sam, C as in cat, H as in hat, I, N as in Nathan, Z as in zebra, E, L as in Larry. And then my email is Mark, MARK @OTM Invests, that's plural with an S, .com. So on the Mark Investments, .com.
Awesome. I love it, brother. Guys, if you guys are in the area, or if you're just, if whatever Mark, if you're just feeling his enthusiasm for this business, his energy, reach out to him. Tell him congratulations, squat up with him, pick his brain. Mark is wildly open to share his best practices, share what he's doing, and just communicate. I mean, he understands that this is a very small community of people that want to really make a difference in their communities, and he's willing to help out with that. So, Mark, thank you so much. This has been a long time in the making.
I know. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
I'll tell you what, I showed everybody on my team your text, and I think I showed it to the world, and it's on the Instagram, and it's just, I couldn't be happier for you, brother. Well deserved. I'm excited to see how fast and how far you go when you can go full time. It's going to be absolutely bananas.
Gives me chills, man. I'm so excited. Couldn't have did it without you and the TTP fam. I mean, that's what gives you the direction to go where you need. I mean, and I hate to like plug it, but the reality is that's what it is. Like, that's what got me there. So thanks again.
Thank you, Mark. A couple of resources, guys. Mark pulled some of his cash buyers that he reached out through text through PropStream. You can get that at ttpdata.com. And if you are interested in joining the most proactive group in real estate investing, it is the TTP program. It is the TTP family. Go to wholesalinginc.com/TTP. wholesalinginc.com/TTP. Scroll down, check out what it's all about. Check out all the incredible people that are part of this group and their testimonials and all their successes. You're going to have to scroll for a while because it is absolutely incredible how many people are out there making a difference in their communities. If you are interested in that, if it feels good in your gut, sign up for a call. We look forward to working with you. I look forward to working with you personally. Mark, thank you for being on the Rhino Tribe Wholesaling Inc. podcast. It's about time. And for everybody out there, as always, I sign off by encouraging you to talk to people. Until next time, love you. See you.